the biggest thing that each individual has is your voice. Like, speak up.
Because it's actually resulted in me becoming more empowered in my beliefs and my values and my convictions.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjakovich. And we are Unapologetically Outspoken. Hey everybody, welcome back to Motivation Manifestation Monday. And I know that last Monday we did not cover a positive topic because we had a really awesome episode on the border with two amazing guests. So if you haven't heard that, definitely go check it out. But we are back to a positive vibe on Mondays. And today we're going to talk about basically the upside of being informed and aware in a world of chaos. So the state of the world right now can very easily cause a lot of anxiety and fear and hopelessness. And Stephanie and I have talked about this a lot on the podcast with like finding balance between maintaining a positive mindset while also being informed about all the crazy shit that's going on in the world. And especially since things just seem to like get more and more disturbing. And I don't know about you, Stephanie, but I often feel like we are in so deep in this country that I have no idea if or how we're going to recover. And a lot of people choose to live in denial and they don't want to research or understand anything that's actually going on in the world because yes, it is depressing and it's overwhelming and it causes a lot of pain, and living in ignorance seems to be like the most reasonable way to avoid all the negativity that's going on in the world. But living in ignorant bliss can also be detrimental to your health and well-being when you don't take steps to be informed, especially when all you're exposed to is misinformation on social media and mainstream media. And this can result in having like a very narrow mindset or a false sense of security, or on the opposite end of the spectrum, a false sense of being informed with shit that isn't true. And that actually results in people being part of the problem and not the solution. And being informed is really a critical part of being able to make good decisions in your own life and to respond effectively to things that happen to you. So, opening your eyes to the truth of what's going on in the world, and especially in our country, is necessary if you want to thrive, and especially if you have kids and you want them to grow up in a country that's not a communist totalitarian regime. So, I read an article in Scientific American about how uncertainty can actually be a very powerful tool of persuasion because uncertainty kind of draws us in and it causes us to pay more attention and to think more deeply about things that are going on. And I read another article on a website called believeperform.com. And this article was about awareness and about how being aware gives you insight into your beliefs. And this article talked about how when you are aware and informed about things, that gives you knowledge. And when you have knowledge, then you have a better idea of what you need to do and the direction you need to go in order to make changes to improve your life and to be successful. And I think this rings very true for me with all of the uncertainty that's going on in the world and doing all the research that we do on this podcast to stay informed, because it's actually resulted in me becoming more empowered in my beliefs and my values and my convictions. And being aware and informed is the reason why I'm doing this podcast and the reason why I'm speaking out, because I want to make a positive difference in this world, even if it's a small one. It's like when people say, you find out what you're made of when you face adversity. You're either going to curl up in a ball and you're going to let life run you over, or you're going to take charge of your life and do what's necessary to persevere and thrive. And, Stephanie and I did a podcast a few months ago on like the victor versus the victim mentality. And I think this kind of goes hand in hand with that. So what do you think, Stephanie?
So I know I've said before that really up until 2020, I was uninformed. Like, I didn't know what was going on in the world, in politics, in the stock market, in anything. I was totally against watching the news, which I still am, because we all know they're biased. They're bought and paid for by the Democratic Party. But what really got me to change my mind and start taking that stance of like, okay, I have to be informed. Like, I can no longer just sit by the wayside, was when I started seeing that things weren't adding up and our freedoms were being stripped away little by little. I saw business owners allow their business to go into financial failure just because the government said it wasn't safe to stay open. I saw the unique perspective from someone living in Florida where life stayed relatively normal while watching fear grip the rest of the country. I began paying attention to all these false narratives, and it angered me. Like, it woke me up because I was like, how are people just blindly following big government and not questioning these things, even when they completely defy common sense? And, we had the whole thing go on where people were wanting to abolish the police and, put themselves and their communities at risk, all in the name for racial justice, while the ones who were suffering the most from this were the Black and brown communities, where crime was spiking as a result of not having the police there. So it just, none of it was adding up to me. And just like a lot of people, I went to bed the night of the election with Trump way ahead in the lead, only to wake up to see how we went from having an election day to an election quarter with zero confidence in the spike of Joe Biden voters at 2 a.m. That was a complete statistical anomaly. But then we weren't allowed to talk about it. And then I watched doctors, including the freaking inventor of the mRNA technology, being censored. And the heads of social media and the politicians all of a sudden became the ones that were the experts on fact and truth and science. And worst of all, I watched the silent majority just sit around with their mouths shut for fear of being ridiculed, losing their job, or worse. And in less than a year, I saw the country that I once knew and loved morph into a terrifying dystopia. And that's when I just decided, like, screw this. I'm not going to sit around and just stay silent. Like, I don't care what anyone thinks. I have to start speaking up just in the name of common sense, because this shit is crazy. And, thanks to all of these brave people who have sought the truth, who have spoken up, we now are understanding all of the things that went wrong in 2020, all of the dangers of the vaccine, the roles our top agencies played in shifting the social media narrative and silencing people right before the biggest election in our country. And here's the thing, like, staying informed is powerful. Like, knowledge is power. Facts still mean something. And, I remember looking at very successful, powerful people, and all of them were informed. They all knew what was going on. They were paying attention to the news. They were paying attention to finances, the stock market. And that's how they created prosperity and stayed ahead of a lot of these negative things that were happening. And here I was with my head in the sand, not knowing anything that was going on because I refused to be informed. So, I changed that and I started paying attention and I started speaking up and I started seeking just the truth of what's happening here and seeing the result of what happens when you implement all these progressive policies. And I do think the silver lining of all of this is so many people are waking up. Like, things have gotten so crazy that people can no longer turn a blind eye, and people are now seeking the truth and wanting to stay informed. And I think that when we all come together with that common ground of knowing that we're not at a good point right now, like right, left, or otherwise, like, it doesn't matter. We're not at a good point and we want things to get better. There's power in that. And there's power in numbers. And so I'm going to keep speaking up and staying informed and sharing the facts that the media refuses to report on. And by doing so, I always tell myself, and I really believe, that we're shining a light on the dark. And when you do that, it loses its power.
I love that. Yes, I absolutely agree with you 100%. And it's like, as much as being informed sometimes causes me anxiety, because I'm not going to lie, it does, it also enables me to be proactive instead of reactive. And so I can take a look at the big picture and I can try to plan for things as much as possible and not just sit there, with my head in social media waiting for shit to go south and then not knowing what to do about it. So that article I referenced earlier on believeperform.com, they use this analogy of like sports or business to talk about three elements of awareness. And the first element is being aware of yourself, like knowing what your own strengths and weaknesses are, your personality, and your motivation. Because becoming aware of yourself and how you respond and react to things can help you come up with strategies to like improve the things you're weak on. And then the second element was being aware of your environment. And this article was talking about mostly like sports competition, but how being aware of things that differ within different sports teams or knowing things about different teams can kind of give you an edge of success. And then the third element was being aware of your enemy and knowing the strengths and weaknesses of others. And so even though these are sports analogies, the idea of these three components of awareness totally apply to being informed and aware of what's happening in our country right now and what's happening in the world. Because when you pay attention to what's going on, it enables you to be better prepared. And to me, the biggest part of this is like being informed and aware gives you the power of choice. And that's really what shit comes down to, is choosing how to live your life and choosing what to do to empower yourself is literally one of the most powerful personal tools that you have. So like if you take a look at your life right now, doesn't it make sense to choose to be informed about what's going on so that you can be as prepared as possible to take care of yourself and your family and not just be hopelessly sitting around waiting for the ball to drop or living in this like false sense of security? And so like Stephanie, there's so many things we can do to be prepared. Like there's a very real possibility of the economy crashing and food shortages. And obviously, like if there's a nuclear war or AI takes over humanity, then we're all just fucked. But what is within our power as individuals that we can do to put ourselves in the best possible situation to be successful and thrive in these challenging and scary times?
Okay, Tara, you totally read my mind because I've actually thought about this a lot lately because I was getting a little bit of anxiety just over, all the shit we talk about on the podcast. But here's the thing, if there's a nuclear war, I'm not even worrying about it. I'm not even like letting myself think about it because if there is a nuclear war or AI takes over, I don't want to survive it. I hope they hit Tampa and I'm the first to be taken out. Like, could you imagine going in some cave and coming out and like everything is just wiped out? Like, fuck that. Like,
Yep.
I'd rather, be on my way. So I'm not even spending my time or energy like worrying about that. But I live in Florida and I've been through multiple hurricanes where I learned this the hard way the first time, where anytime anything happens, supplies go fast. And when I say they go fast, I mean like an hour later and the shelves are wiped out. Like every gas is gone. Like you can't get anything you need. So I have just learned, and it's so funny because every time I'm at the store, and I go to grab like a case of water or something, there's always someone that'll make a comment like, yep, we gotta always have water on hand. Just stock up. You never know when the next hurricane's coming. So we just make it a thing. Like we always have extra water and food, batteries, battery radio, solar phone charger, like all the stuff that I think everyone, no matter where you live, should just have on hand because whether there's a weather catastrophe or the power grid goes out or anything, like you don't want to be the person that has nothing in your pantry or to drink. So funny, by the way, totally like, well, not really off topic, but the last hurricane we had, I'm at the store and like the water, they limited it. That's the other thing. They start limiting and you can only get like 2 cases. So I'm at the store and I run into my friend and her whole cart is filled with beer. And she's like, girl, why are you getting water? She's like, if we are without power, you're going to want to be drunk the entire time. She's like, so screw you have the water. I'm taking the beer. I was like, that's a really good point. Like, I haven't gone to the liquor store yet, but I probably should stock up because shit's going to get a little crazy. So alcohol.
You know what's funny on that is like when I first moved to Washington, I moved there during what they called Snowmageddon in 2018. And I had literally moved into my house 2 days before it started. And I was supposed to go to training that was like an hour and a half away. And I was staying there for like a week, I think. And so I didn't go grocery shopping. I didn't do anything. And then this Snowmageddon hit and they shut everything down and the school closed. I barely made it home because I didn't know how to drive in the snow. And all I had in my house was alcohol and protein bars. And literally for a week, that is what I lived on, was alcohol and protein bars, because I couldn't get out of my house to go to the store.
Yeah. So I bet you always have some
Yeah.
things on hand now in case, something like that happens.
Yeah, because growing up in Los Angeles, we didn't have extreme weather. And so I was never prepared for those things. And then now living in like this area of rural Texas with literally like neurotic weather, where one day, it's 30 degrees and the next it's 90, and having the possibility of losing power or getting snowed in. Like, I have a totally different mindset on preparation now than I did when I lived in the city.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's just a good idea. Like, it's better to be safe than sorry. That's my opinion on it. So I just always have extras on that. In fact, I ended up getting a water machine where you get like those big 3 or 5 gallon waters. And that's great because now I always have like a ton of water. So I feel like I never really have to worry about it if something happens. So, I just think like general practice, it's good to like have a stockpile of things. Don't have to be a doomsday prepper, but like have the basics on hand. But I think really like the biggest thing that each individual has is your voice. Like, speak up. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. How many times have we heard that? And when we look at the polls, no one likes these progressive policies and what is happening right now in the world. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. Nobody wants to have sky high food prices, gas shortages, brink of nuclear war. So, like, I think we're all on the same page. We might disagree on the details, but everyone's pretty much unhappy with the way our economy and things are going right now. So let that be known. And I found this out. I went online. You can submit a message online to your congressman in less than 5 minutes. Like, just type in, where your city, your state congressman, and it'll pop up their office, and you fill out a form right on the website. It takes a few minutes. Let them know what you want from them. I was on TikTok and I was like, this is so freaking genius. So there was this lady, and I don't even remember what it was the TikTok ban. And she's like telling everyone, go and write a letter to your congressperson. So she shows the letter that she wrote, and she's basically saying, like, I don't want this passed. Here's why. And if you end up passing it, I am going to make it my full-time job to work for your competitor in the next campaign. And so the guy sends back some like just generic, like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm voting for the TikTok ban or whatever. And she's like, okay, well, that's fine, but I'm going to sick the TikTok audience on you. And she gave she had like 1 million followers, and she's like, go do your thing. And she gave like their phone number and email. And I was like, hell yeah, like that's actually really smart. Like, you want, things to be known. So just start sharing that. Like, let your opinion matter. Like, share what's right and what's wrong. Like, it doesn't even have to be about policy, but just stand up for your values and what's right. And I think that, like, I personally see this happening on TikTok in a huge way. Half of the American population is on there, and I believe that's why they want it banned. So I get that, like, Facebook and Instagram are going to just censor you. Go on TikTok, go on Twitter, like, start getting the word out of what you want to see in the world. Quit being this silent person that's just hoping someone else will stand up for you. Like, you've got to take some personal accountability and control for your life and stand up for what you believe is right. And I just think our voice is our most powerful tool, and like the one thing we have that we can do to stop this now. And we need to do it now, because if we don't do it now, it's going to be too late. Like, you can't wait until things get so bad, because at that point, like, it's out of control and it's not going to do very good. The next thing that you can do is spend your money wisely. So if we all band together and we stopped supporting these brands that go along with these insane progressive policies, they will change, because the one thing they care about is money. And just look at what happened with Bud Light. Like, they are hurting big time, and I don't know that they're going to recover. Like, everyone band together and freaking quit buying Bud Light. And that is what we have to do. We have to start like making it known that we're not going to put up with these insane things that are just completely destroying what makes America America and why we have all of our freedoms. And then the other thing, obviously, is your mindset. So we know that everything is energy. I'm a big believer in the law of attraction. I know that we create our reality. And I think that for me, like, it was a big reminder to start visualizing the good, visualizing our country being back in order, things being normal, like prices being normal, there being peace throughout the world. Like, start visualizing the things that you want to see. Start visualizing your kids or the next generation living in a better place. And I think if we all start focusing our thoughts and energy, that sends a ripple effect felt around the world. Like, you can feel energy. And they've actually done studies on this where they've had hundreds of people all meditating for peace at the same time in the same place. And crime stats actually plummeted during that time. So there is something to it. And I think that we all just need to start doing that and like visualizing more of what we want, talking about more of what we want, focusing on the solutions that we want to see and making that known. And you know, even if you're like a big skeptic of the law of attraction, you can't really deny that like setting goals makes a difference. Like, they've done a ton of studies on that as well. So set some goals for what you want to see, not just in your personal life, but in our country, in the world. Like, write them out. And if nothing else, I do think it helps you feel better and cope with everything going on. And you know, as much as we need to stand up against these things that are very wrong that are happening right now, we also need to promote the good. And that's why we have Motivation Mondays, is to put that good energy out there. And I think everyone can do that. And I really firmly believe that it makes a difference for you and for everyone in your life when you start spreading that positivity and just talking more about the good instead of all the shit going wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And that's why sometimes I'm like, God, there's so much shit to talk about. And it's like, should we change our Monday episodes and focus more on current events? And then I think no, because I think these episodes are important, and bringing awareness to the positive things that we can do, even in light of all the negativity that's going on. I think that is something that we all need to take responsibility for in our lives. And part of doing that is being aware and informed.
Exactly. Yeah. The way that I look at these Monday episodes is taking personal responsibility for your life, your mindset. And if everyone started doing that, we wouldn't be reporting on the crazy shit happening in the world because it wouldn't exist. So I'm really hoping that it motivates people to stop being one of the silent majority and start speaking up for your values and taking responsibility for your life. Quit blaming everyone else and just try to make a change. Try to be a part of what you want to see. And again, like, if we all do that, I do believe there is more good than bad in this world. And if all the good start standing up, it will make a difference. And hopefully these Monday episodes motivate you to do that. And you can always, you know, reach out to us or join on Patreon. I really, you know, would like to start getting a big community on there so that we can start talking about these subjects of like, what can we do and how can we make a positive impact and make some changes and let, you know, our voice be heard. So come jump over to Patreon and we can start talking there and just start taking some responsibility, focusing on what you want to see in your life, in the country, in the world, and it will make a difference. And we'll still be back here though on Wednesday with all the crazy shit going on in the world, because sometimes it's just fun to talk about too. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff happening. So we'll see you in a couple of days. Have a wonderful Monday. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you get our latest episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you could, please rate and review the show. We are going to be reading every single review, and I would love it if you hopped over to Instagram at Unapologetically Outspoken and say hi. We want to see who's out there and start a conversation. plus get all of the topics that you want us to talk about next. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.